What version of Kirk Cousins are the Falcons going to get post-bye?
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. the Jolly Green Giant, a.k.a. Mr. AKA, and I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for a very long time, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast, and I thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me as everydayers. That means you make it your first watch each and every day, and all you got to do to become an everydayer is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today I am joined by none other than my very illustrious guest, Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta, covering all of Atlanta sports, Georgia sports, all that and more over on Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today we are talking about the Atlanta Falcons, of course, here on Locked On Falcons, talking about this upcoming Week 13 Chargers matchup. The Falcons coming out of their bye week. We'll get into sort of how this team tries to slow down Justin Herbert, how this offense gets going against a Chargers defense that has looked pretty good for most of the season, did not look particularly great against the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football in Week 12. And we'll get into all of that on today's episode, Jarvis. But first, let's focus primarily on the Falcons coming out of their bye week. And Jarvis, you most weeks on this pod, I ask you questions like, okay, what are you watching for? What's a key to victory for the upcoming opponent? We'll get into that more later. But what is kind of what you're hoping to see from this football team coming out of this bye week?
I want to see a healthy team. That's number one. I want to see some of the guys start to come back that need to come back. Starting on offense, I think Darnell Mooney, the hamstring injury, he sat out the game. The rest of the game against the Broncos, not the Broncos, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm against the Broncos. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on with me right now. But yeah, I think he's the most important guy out of that wide receiver group because he poses the biggest threat when it comes to teams trying to play that a little bit more tighter coverage. And I feel like he's the guy that can break that. He can take the top off of the defense if need be. And I think Kirk trusts him to do that, to be able to do that in those situations. So I think him coming back fully healthy, I believe that's going to be the main thing for me. And also, I'm really interested to see what Kirko's kind of like mindset. Are we going to get Kirko or are we going to get Kirk? Coming out of the bye, because Kirk tends to turn the ball over from time to time, and Kirko is the guy who's doing the swag serving at the end of the game and make it and getting that crowd riled up. Because you got with the Chargers coming into Mercedes-Benz on Sunday, that's going to be the real big key for them to have that do something in order to get that crowd going, because they always talk about home field advantage and want to be able to give the crowd something to root for. I feel like Kirk can do that. And Kirk Cole is the guy that can really take it to the next level just from a production standpoint. So, yeah, those are the main two things that I'm looking for. And notice I only talking about the offense because this is how this team is going to win games and be taken seriously for the rest of this season.
I agree 100% with that, Jarvis. I've been talking about that quite a bit here on Locked On Falcons these last couple of days and weeks that, they need the offense to, it's basically, it boils down to the good parts of your football team need to be good, right? If you want to win football games.
Yep.
And the best parts of the Falcons right now is their passing attack with Darnell Mooney, the explosive passing attack that they have, their ability to move the chains with Drake London, and their ability to run the football with Bijan Robinson. And as you mentioned, you need Kirk Cousins or Kirko, as you say, to manage all of those pieces and get this thing moving in the right direction. And so we'll see if the Falcons can do that. But let's sort of pivot a little bit to this upcoming Chargers matchup and sort of what is specifically you're focused on in this game and or that key to victory. And we'll get into all of that, guys, as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. Hello, my friend. It's me from France coming to tell you about Gametime and the new feature, Gametime Picks, which is going to make getting tickets to see your favorite Frenchman, Zachary Rissachet, and my favorite, Trey Young, or as we say in my country, Twa Young in State Farm Arena. Even easier. Gametime Picks is filtering out the fluff to show you only incredible deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. How do you say? What you see is what you get when you toggle the all-in prices in the app, so there are no hidden fees at checkout. You silly Americans and your hidden fees. Whether it's basketball, sports, comedy, music, and theater, whatever event is near you, Gametime is taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. You save so many euros. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Here with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And we're talking about this Week 13 matchup between the Falcons and Chargers. We just talked about how we want to see this offense, step up coming out of this bye week if this team is going to do any real damage in these last 6 games and solidify their spot atop the NFC South as the winner of that division. But when we look ahead to this Chargers team, and we've talked about it a bunch already, Jarvis, on previous shows and past shows, where you have a Chargers defense that has played pretty well this year. They got, some people say they got exposed a little bit these last couple of weeks against the Bengals and Ravens. But, this is still a capable defense that I think can do a lot of damage against what the Falcons' strength is, which is their offense. But when we look ahead to this specific matchup, is it the Falcons offense versus the Chargers defense, or is there another sort of matchup that you're intrigued by? What are you sort of watching for with this Falcon team in this specific game?
For me, it has to start with the Falcons offense, and them going up against Chargers defense that has a Tulilo Palutu. Oh my God, I might have blow that a little bit, but please forgive me. Tui Palutu. There we go. One of them. Yeah, the guy from USC.
Yes.
That was drafted out of the second round.
I just call him Tuli, but yes.
Tuli, yes. There we go. Tuli. We're gonna go with Tuli. Thank you. But yeah, I think Tuli is a guy to watch out for. You got Khalil Mack, who just came back, and I don't know how I feel about Khalil Mack. So that's another guy that can rush the passer. And I think that's going to be the biggest matchup right there to keep an eye on, as far as that pass rush from the Chargers, the LA Chargers, excuse me, and the Falcons offensive line, because that's going to be the thing to where it's going to make or break, or whether or not they're going to have some success. Is Kirk going to be able to be decisive with the football? Because he talked about holding on the ball a little bit too much, or being a little bit too anxious. Anytime we get anxious, Kirk, we know bad things can happen. And how he get anxious is how that protection holds up. Is he going to be able to let that ball go? Because Chargers like to be able to, run a little bit of zone, and we know that Kirko can carve up some zone. If that's what they want to do, I think he can definitely go out and do that, and they'll play some man-to-man from time to time too. So, like you said, with Mooney potentially coming back, hopefully he'll be back, as a full go, and he'll be able to take advantage of that, because the corners for the Chargers aren't all necessarily that great. They got a lot of young guys. They got Christian Fulton out of LSU. He was giving up some plays on Monday night against the Ravens. So there are some ways the Falcons can take advantage of this offense, of the Chargers defense. It's just a matter of making sure they're being decisive with the football. They're being decisive with the football, and they'll be able to establish some run game, because you can't get one dimensional against that that front, because I feel like if the Falcons are forced to be one-dimensional and pass the ball all over the yard, I feel like they're going to get the Chargers a huge advantage that in a situation that the Falcons don't want to get themselves into.
I agree wholeheartedly. I noticed, Jarvis, you didn't mention Bud Dupree as one of the guys that the Falcons need to block against the Chargers. So I was a little confused by that.
Yeah, he's like he's in that group. Yeah, okay. He's in there.
Okay, all right.
I named the most important people first.
Yeah, Joey Bosa still exists too.
Bosa, yeah, Bosa's out there.
Yeah. So, but Dupree, doing his thing.
He is. You know what, Aaron? I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. Because here's the thing, man. Like, are you saying this because you thought I wasn't a fan of Bud Dupree?
No, I just because
I know you. I know. I've been around you for quite some time.
What?
For a few years now, man. We've been working together for a few years now. So I want to make sure that this isn't one of those situations where let me be petty. Let me ask them about Bud, and I'm trying to see if I can catch Jarvis up, catch him slipping a little bit.
No, Jarvis, I don't specifically recall any time last year where you were complaining about Bud Dupree getting too many snaps over Arnold Ebiketie. I feel like that was more of a Lorenzo Carter issue, I felt like it was it T that was complaining about Bud Dupree? I felt like one of y'all was.
Oh yeah, she despises him.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's my memory of it. So Jarvis, I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus or anything like that. I was just bringing it up because it's like Bud Dupree. He goes to teams and they play good defense, even though you don't look at Bud Dupree and like he's not the reason why they're playing good defense. But you saw it last year in Atlanta. You saw it this year in LA. You saw it previously with Tennessee and Pittsburgh and stuff. He just seems to be a player that plays on good defenses, even if he's not the reason why those defenses are good.
Absolutely
interesting to me.
It is very interesting, right? Because he's been kind of bouncing around, Steelers, Titans, Falcons, Chargers. It's just he's what's the word I'm looking for? If you got a defense that's already trying to establish themselves, you want to establish a certain type of mindset. He's a perfect guy to bring in. Because that's how he plays. And he's the perfect fit for a Jim Harbaugh coach team, right? Because if you think about all of those guys on that side of the football, you got Joey, you got Bud, you got Khalil, you got Thule. I mean, those guys, man, those guys that you want to walk in the back alley with, right? Regardless of how they are off the field, man. I'll take all those guys. If you're talking about, how many of those guys would you swap out on the Falcons defense?
I mean, yeah, I got the implication, Jarvis, that it was like, I don't know if the Falcons are you suggesting that the Falcons don't necessarily have the guys that you want to get into a back alley with, especially at that edge rusher position?
Oh, yeah, man. Hey, man. You talking about edge spot? Edge spot? Oh, wow. Man. I'd probably take all of those cats over all the Falcons edge dudes.
I wouldn't disagree with you, Jarvis. I wouldn't disagree.
You know what I'm saying? Come on. I mean, I'm just keeping it funky, man. Grady, no doubt. I'll take Grady anywhere with me. We going in the back alley, bro. Let's go. Let's ride. I don't know if he'll go with me. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you listen to Locked On Falcons, because it seems like I'm always got to be the bad guy when they're talking about this Falcons front. But seriously though, I think that the Chargers are doing some really good things up front, man, and I feel like Kirk is gonna. He got his hands full, man, because I know a lot of people talking about the Ravens were able to run the football against the Chargers. I was like, the Ravens are one of the best running football teams in the league, and they have Lamar Jackson. So yeah, there's certain our style makes the fight, man. I think people need to really understand style makes the fight. True enough, they were susceptible against the run against the Ravens. They have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. When you understand having athletic quarterbacks, think about Michael Vick, perfect example. It was a reason why they were one of the best rushing teams in the league, because they had people had to worry about 7 running the football. And today, on Monday night's game, they had to worry about 8 running the football. So even though they have to worry about Derrick Henry running the football, so it's just so many different variables that you have to account for. And when the Falcons take on the Chargers, they're not going to worry about Kirk running the football at all. So if he's turning around by acting like he's about to hand it off, more than likely he's going to hand it off because they don't run play action that much, if at all. So yeah, it's style makes the fight. So people just understand like this is a very hard matchup for the Falcons, and they're going to have to be on point and not flat in Mercedes-Benz if they want to get a dub.
Yes. And Raheem Morris has mentioned that one of the things that they worked on in the self-scouting during the bye week is, that basically that they're dead last in the NFL and using play action. Maybe, again, Jarvis, it's like what we talk about with the Falcons pass rush, like, hey, can we get the 30th? Can we get, can we just
I cannot be last?
Yeah, just let's not be last. So we'll see if the Falcons switch that up and maybe that presents a different wrinkle to this Chargers team. But I agree with you. Yeah, it's like you watch that Ravens game and what the Ravens are capable of doing on offense. There isn't a lot of overlap with what the Falcons do offensively, other than if you just want to look at like, hey, Zay Flowers and Darnell Mooney are very similar players. And, those are two guys that, from a matchup standpoint, you can sort of see some issues for that. But, when we talk about, this team's ability to match up with this Chargers team, we've talked about the offense's ability to attack this Chargers defense. Let's flip the script, Jarvis, and talk about what do we expect from this Falcons defense against the Chargers offense. And I can tell by the look on your face, you don't necessarily want to have this conversation because I'm guessing that you're not particularly optimistic with this Falcons defense, but we can explore that further as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app is going to give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, so that when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Maybe you use that $5 bet on this Falcons-Chargers matchup where the Chargers are favored by 1.5 points. Will Younghoe Koo come through? Find out more by checking it out at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So here with Jarvis Davis here on Locked On Falcons, talking about this Week 13 matchup between the Falcons and Chargers. And Jarvis, to me, I agree wholeheartedly with what we've talked about so far, where it's like you need the Falcons offense. If this is probably going to be, I don't know if I want to say shootout, but this is going to be a QB duel, I think, right? Kirko versus Justin Herbert. And whoever has the better day probably will win. And when you look at that, you're like, Kirk's got to deal with a Chargers defense that's like top 10, top 12 in the NFL, and Justin Herbert has to deal with a Falcons defense that is not that. Let's just say that we'll be nice today, Jarvis, and say not that. Okay, so it's like, this feels like this is set up for Justin Herbert to win that sort of QB duel. And so basically, I'm asking, is there anything the Falcons can do defensively to just throw a wrench into that plan? Just disrupt it a little bit, just to give Kirk a little bit of help, to just be like, okay, we'll get a couple of stops, Kirk, to help you out. Do you feel like that is the case in this game?
I think that Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris are going to have to really challenge these wide receivers, because there's not really they don't have a guy. They kind of let all those guys walk out of the door, guys who kind of game changing type wide receivers, and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and all that stuff. So when you think about go-to wide receivers. They don't necessarily really have that. And I think that if they are able to challenge those guys and not necessarily do all this soft zone coverage and all this stuff, and just like, man, you gotta challenge these guys, because otherwise, if you don't, Justin Herbert is going to carve you up, because like the dude makes some unbelievable throws. I was just going back and watching some of this game, the game against Cincinnati, and on Monday night against the Ravens. Like, man, when you see him just being in rhythm and being on schedule, man, the dude was, let's say, rip, man. But there is a chink in the armor, so to speak. And I think it's and it goes back to what we've been talking about, this offense. If the offense can get a lead, get a 1-score lead, maybe even a 2-score lead, not 14. I ain't gonna ask for too much. Maybe get into a 10-point lead in that second half, and force them kind of become one-dimensional. That's when you kind of take the different elements out of the game that what Greg Roman wants to do, because we know what he wants to do. He wants to run the ball, play action, run the ball, play action. And if the Falcons can somehow get them behind schedule from just from the score standpoint, if they can jump out early on the Chargers and force them to kind of get out of what they want to do, I feel like that's the best opportunity for this defense to have some success against Justin Herbert. Because otherwise, if you find yourself in a tight game and they're kind of having a two-way go on how they want to call plays, you might be in for a long one.
Yeah. I was watching the Chargers-Ravens game, and I was reminded a little bit, especially late in that game, once the Ravens had gone up 14 points. And it was reminiscent to me of when the Falcons were beating the Cowboys, and they were able to pin their ears back and run some stunts and run some twists and be much more aggressive with their blitzing. Mm-hmm. And I would just like to see the Falcons not just sort of wait until, as you suggest, they get a lead and then we can unleash that. I would like to see this team be a little bit more aggressive coming out of the gates. And you talk about the receivers, like, Ladd McConkey is their number one wide receiver. I don't love that matchup given how the Falcons' nickel cornerback has been this season with D. Alford and whatnot. So I think D. Alford's going to definitely have to step up. There's a part of me that wonders, like, would it make sense to maybe have AJ Terrell shadow Ladd McConkey a little bit? But I don't know. AJ doesn't have a great history when we've asked him to play in the slot and whatnot. So I think that would be putting him in a tough matchup, but finding some ways to keep Ladd contained. But I just kind of look at this Chargers team, and I'm gonna watch more film, but like I just look at them and I'm just like, yeah, man, we got to make it hard on Justin Herbert. If the Falcons do if you're at, I'm not an expert, guys, I'm just a guy on a podcast, right? So if
you're more than that, but go ahead.
But like, if I was constructing a game plan, just sort of how would I try to match up with this Chargers? Like, I don't believe in their receivers, right? I think Ladd is very good, but I just think, like, I would man up these guys because I don't think they can beat our corners. I'm going to play press man. I'm going to dial up a lot of aggressive blitzes. I know that's been an Achilles heel of Greg Roman throughout his time in the NFL, not necessarily have answers. You saw some of that, flashes of that in that Ravens game, although because of Justin Herbert being Justin Herbert, like, he kind of is your answer. Just, hey, Justin, go make a play type of thing. But I would just basically, like, to me, the idea of the Falcons just kind of sitting back and playing their soft zone and just letting Justin Herbert pick them up. Like, you have to, like, to me, you got to make Justin Herbert go into sicko mode. And he's very capable of, basically doing that and just basically like, yeah, I'm going to run around, I'm going to hit these throws 23 yards down the field or whatever in tight windows and all that stuff. He's very capable. And if he plays that style of football, then it's like, hey, man, that's why he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. And there's not a whole lot of answers we can throw at him. But to me, the idea of just sort of passively sitting back and just going like, go ahead, pick apart our defense, to me, it's just not a good strategy. And that's my number one concern, is that the Falcons will just kind of double down on how they've played all year long, which is that style, and it's not going to favor this team in the slightest.
And you know the saying how they always, the saying is, you are who your coach is. Like, you take on the identity of your coach. And with Jimmy Lake, the way he's calling plays, kind of soft, kind of, non-aggressive type defense, right? Like, I think everybody who knows anything about football, the people listening to this podcast, they can look at it like, man, what's going on? Like, be aggressive. Like, and I think that the only person that can change that, how it looks on tape, is Jimmy Lake, by the calls you make. You got to be able to trust your players, man. I know you want to run this zone scheme. I know you maybe have a little trepidation about, D Alford matched up one-on-one with Lad McConkey. But go ahead, man. Call it, man. Call it. Because here's the thing. I'm the type of guy where if I'd rather go out swinging, guns a blazing, then you water drip me to death. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking about getting that water right there on your forehead. I'd rather go out, hey man, I'm jumping on this bomb because I want to save everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather go out like guns a blazing, but to sit up there and just sit back and just take it can, man, like, that's defeated. You talking about being defeated as a player, and knowing that's what Judon is. That's how Judon feels. Now, I don't necessarily agree with his whole assessment of this defense and the situation and why he's playing and why he's not being productive, but I do feel him. I do understand where he's coming from when he's talking about the scheme, because if you are talking about people being able to, whatever the offense kind of gives you and letting that kind of dictate what you do, that is not good at all from a mindset standpoint. So I feel like Jimmy Lake is the only person that can change how this defense thinks, how it plays, and how it executes. Because I remember games where they were being aggressive, they were sending stunts, and they were sending Kaden Ellis from the second level, man, and it was starting to look good. But that was only because you had got punched in the mouth in the first half of the game. So let's go ahead and start like that. Let's start saying, hey, we're going to be aggressive. And then if we get beat, hey, man, we're just going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to be able to make those necessary adjustments. And you've been good at doing that. So, hey, let's do that.
Like, I feel like we peaked at the sort of sit back and let the opposing team dictate. And you saw that happen against the Broncos. And it's just like, all right, like, we tried that. It didn't work out. Let's switch it up, and so we'll see if the Falcons do that coming out of the bye. But any sort of
John Elway, man, come on now.
Any parting words or parting shots that you want to take up, Bud Dupree or anybody else before we duck out of here?
Bro, why you think I don't like you? Hey, the Chargers got a tight end that Herbert likes to throw the ball to. Disley, don't let him beat you, man. And Palmer too. You know what Palmer did last time, and you know what Khalil Mack did last time. Drake London admittedly said that was his welcome to the NFL moment. So we don't need no more welcome to the NFL moments. Like no, don't let tight ends beat you. Don't let third, fourth wide receiver beat you. And hold on to the football when you make a big play. Yeah, so those can be things that can make you or break you.
Yes. TQ. I don't think TQ's playing in this game because he's on IR, but there are lessons to learn from that.
The type of games that or things that happen to this team that we're able to reference, bro, it should be a book written about this stuff, man.
Yeah.
It should be a book written about this stuff. It's just amazing. You got a quarterback of the team go to federal prison for 2 years. You got a dang near pastor get caught soliciting a prostitute the night before the Super Bowl. Man, this man, look back. Hey, man, it's Atlanta, man. This is what it is, baby. You know what I'm saying? So let's embrace it. Let's have a conversation about it. And, hopefully we can make some changes on Sunday. It'll make it all better.
Yes, hopefully we'll see. Guys, that's gonna do it for
Doors
us.
of the church are open.
It's gonna do it for us here at Locked On Falcons. Thank you, Jarvis, for checking it out. We'll be back on Sunday with a Locked On Falcons, Locked On Sports Atlanta postcast on Locked On Sports Atlanta's YouTube channel, on Locked On Falcons podcast feed. Check us out. We'll give you the lowdown on, the very refreshing win for the Atlanta Falcons or the very lost for the Atlanta Falcons. So either way, we will be ready to go for that postcast on Sunday. But guys, enjoy your holiday, enjoy your leftovers, whatever you need to enjoy, your Black Friday shopping. Go out there and pull a Bud Dupree and just start flipping people over. Whatever, I don't know, man. But that's gonna do it. What was that, Jarvis?
I just said be happy.
Yes. Do whatever you do to make yourself happy, even regardless of what happens with the Atlanta Falcons. That's basically my life. It's just like find joy in your life, even if that joy is not the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
Somehow, some way. So that is it, guys. Continue to check us out here on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out the Locked On NFL podcast as your second listen to get the scoop on the rest of this weekend's action. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.